Today we're going into the Zellers Bootleg Atari 2600 cartridge catalog and taking a look at some of the most infamous Atari games ever made. So I'll tell you, I don't like collecting things just for the sake of collecting them. I have a record collection. It's pretty extensive, maybe 400 records, but I listen to them. I listen to them every day. And it might take me a while to get all the way through all 400, but eventually I do. I also have some vintage video games. I play those every day. I don't like the idea of collecting things just for the sake of collecting them because I feel that's a really good way to end up buried under your stuff. If I don't use it all the time, if it doesn't make me happy regularly, then I don't want to own it, except for these. These are some video games that I don't play ever. I don't stick them in the Atari. I don't invite my friends over to play them. They're not actually very good games, at least most of them. But what they are is one of the most interesting stories and some of the most beautiful cartridges to ever come out of the 1980s. I know that's a controversial statement. Let me explain. So as far as I can research, sometime towards the end of the initial popularity of the Atari VCS, the Atari 2600, Atari was in a bit of trouble. People's attention was getting shifted to the personal computer market. The Commodore 64 was eating their lunch. The ColecoVision had better looking games. And I'm not sure whether it was just that somebody smelled some blood in the water or what, but at the same time, it appears as though a factory in Taiwan decided they could get away with rebranding / repackaging some existing Atari games, changing the name, putting a strange oil painting on the front that's sort of a cross between Hieronymus Bosch and Sesame Street, and then pawning it off to the department store chain Zellers in Canada so they could sell it. You can imagine on the Zellers end of things, they were pretty excited about it. You see, Zellers was a discount department store, not so much like Walmart in America, but maybe more like Kmart in America. Their slogan was "the lowest price is the law." I remember Zellers, but I remember it as a kid. I didn't actually shop there as an adult very much, so I called my mom, and I called her just to see what she thought of Zellers. And so this is what she said.
It's just quality for and value for what you paid. I would say that they did gear themselves towards a lower income or a moderate income family.
But even families that were cash strapped had kids that wanted to play video games. That was a universal thing. Once the Atari was introduced in 1977, every kid wanted to have one. And so by the early mid 80s, most kids had found some way to get an Atari 2600 into their lives. Rich kids were upgrading. As I recall, rich kids were buying Commodore 64s. Kids that came from families that were less financially advantaged were still playing with their Atari. I think that's where Zellers came in with this particular product. In the heyday of the Atari 2600, a premier title, like a Defender, for example, from what I can research, you might have spent over 40 Canadian dollars to buy that game. You can imagine how Zellers felt when they had the opportunity to sell comparable video games to families in Canada for $7 a pop. I guess to me, the only question is, why in the boardroom did nobody question, why are these so cheap? I did contact the company and asked them what happened. There is a sister company to Zellers. It's called the Hudson's Bay Company. And I asked them about these Zellers carts. I will read to you their reply. Thank you for your recent email to HBC Heritage and for your interest in Zellers. Unfortunately, our records are very limited on this subject. We can confirm that the games were indeed made in Taiwan during the 1980s, and that there were 18 games in total, but we don't have any more additional information. We recommend you reach out to a specialty game collector for more information. Look, I wasn't in the boardroom. I don't know. Did Zellers know they were selling pirated bootleg Atari games? Did they just get hoodwinked by a rogue supplier in Taiwan somehow? I don't know. The story is that they were sued by Atari or asked to stop selling these. And they did. They stopped selling them. But not before a bunch of them got out into the wild. And now if you're an Atari collector in Canada, you come across them every now and again. The interesting thing is now, instead of the bootleg cartridge costing $7 and the actual Atari cartridge costing 6 times that, it is the inverse. If you go into a game store, I was just in one here in the city I live in, you can get a copy of Defender for $7. And under glass, At the counter at the front where all the cameras are watching. That's where the Zellers cartridge sits, and it's $60. How did this happen? Well, I've got a couple of theories. First of all, it's quite an anomaly. It's so bizarre and strange that a large chain with hundreds of locations either made the biggest mistake ever or knowingly decided that Atari was in trouble and maybe they could get away with selling some bootleg cartridges. I don't know. But just that it happened is pretty amazing. Beyond that is the art. Let's take a look at, Challenge, for example. You play a duck, a little blue duck, just trying to make your way through an ever-changing maze of danger without getting caught. It's a pretty basic game, which, strangely, is scored to the tune of Glory, Glory, Hallelujah. But for some reason, the company making this game decided they would make an oil painting of a scene from Ghostbusters. Like a very frightening oil painting from Ghostbusters, and stick that on the front. The game has nothing to do with Ghostbusters. The image on the front of Defender has a picture of two Earthlings looking over their shoulder being attacked by aliens. That's the point of the game. You're defending Earth from an alien attack. This is Earth Attack. Who is this woman in the backless dress? Or this man who clearly rides triangular horses far too much? So whether you're jazzed about the incredibly simple font, the black and white labels on the backs of these things, or whether it's the really bizarre, amazing, interesting, horrible art on the front, regardless of how they came into existence, just that they came into existence is astounding to me. And they are so ugly and warped and strange just in their existence alone. I feel a kinship with these cartridges. I feel like it's not the cartridge's fault that they are so ugly, misshapen, and lost. So I want to collect them. I feel like you collect the things you love, and these cartridges are so messed up, so bizarre, and cursed with such ugly artwork. I can't leave them in the bin at the flea market or at the garage sale. I can't. When I see one of these, I pick it up. I don't spend $60. There's a weird collection thing with these that's happening now. They're getting really popular, but I still want to collect them. I'm working on it. I got 12 of the 18, 6 more to go. If you've got Busy Police, let me know. But regardless, I wanted you to see that because I think there are some things in life that just happen by accident. And they're just such a phenomenon of weird beauty and strangeness and ugly fantasticness that I just can't leave them alone. I feel a kinship to these games, and so that's why I collect them. There really is no other reason. It's certainly not because they're awesome video games. But I wanted you to know they exist, and so now you do. So I hope you found that interesting. If you did, please feel free to like or subscribe. Liking and subscribing to a channel really helps the channel, and you'd really be helping the channel out if you could do that. So until next week, take care, stay safe, have fun with your DIY projects. I'll see you next Saturday.